Welcome back to another STEM with Miss Dubois video. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to use the sketch tool in Fusion. Let's begin. So let's go over the Create a Sketch tool. Now, I will be totally transparent here, and the first time I recorded this video all the way through with the Create a Sketch tool, and I showed every little feature, it was an over a 30-minute video. So, what I'm going to say is I'm going to show you the main tools that you will use while creating a sketch and the main tips and strategies and tricks that I have that have worked for me while creating a sketch. For that reason, I will not be showing every feature because ultimately, the best way to learn Fusion is by exploring it yourself. So if you're curious about a feature that I do not show, I strongly encourage that you explore it yourself. And if you struggle with it, that's okay. If you really are struggling with a feature in Fusion, comment it down below on this video for Create a Sketch, and I will make a video for it. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's click Create a Sketch. So, what you do is you're going to be opened up to Fusion like this, and you're going to find Create. It's always going to be in this area. Now, on PCs, it looks a little bit different than Macs. I'm recording this on a Mac because I like my Mac better for this type of stuff. Not for Fusion. I actually like my PC better, but I just like screen recording and editing on a Mac. Anyways, moving on. So, create sketch. Create sketch. That is what you'll use. This icon would typically be right here in the PC version of Fusion. But it's not. So let's just move on with what we're moving on with. So you click create sketch, and then it's going to have you click a separate plane. I'm going to explain what the planes are in a separate video because they are kind of an important part about Fusion, but they're also, you kind of just have to mess around and explore with it. And if I were to explain it all in this one video, it'd be way too overwhelming. So I'm going to save that for a different video. But I'm going to emphasize that it does not matter which plane or planar face you select as long as you select a face, because it does not matter. It works the same. The create sketch feature runs the same. So let's create this plane, or click that plane, and then here you go. As you see right here, you have all of these wonderful tools. Create obviously means you create stuff. Modify is where you edit your stuff. Now, to be totally honest, I use mostly line through ellipse the most. I seldomly use text, and I use point when I need to. I've never used spline. I've never used slot. And I've never used conic. Don't know how to say that word, curve. So for this video, I'm going to be focusing on these features. And text I'll show you because it's cool, but I'm really not going to spend a ton of time on it. And then I'll show you mirror. I will make a separate video for circular pattern and rectangular pattern. If you are curious about that, wait till the video where it's posted. It might be linked in this video if you wait long enough, but if not, it will be posted eventually, probably in November at this rate. Maybe end of October, I don't know. Depends. Moving on. So, line is simple. Line, you just simply drag it. You click a spot, you drag it, and you can actually type in the value you want, and that sets the value. And then you click, and then it keeps working on, and you can make some really cool shapes with it. You have total freedom with line. It just makes straight lines at any angle that you want. And to stop it, you either have to make a closed shape. And to do that, you can go like this. That looks like a messed up castle. Or, that's one way. Or if you're in line and you don't want to make a closed shape for whatever reason, like I'm making, I don't know what I'm making right now, but you can press escape. So yeah, I'm pressing Control Z or Command Z technically on my Mac to undo this all and stuff. I might keep that. I don't know. Let's see. Now, the next shape that you'll use a lot is the rectangle. So for Windows, you have to find the rectangle, you click rectangle, you click 2-point. I never use these, so I've only used 2-point rectangles because I just know they're easier. 2-point rectangle, I always use the origin. And then this is the cool part. You just slowly start to drag it out and you see that there is a number highlighted. I can't bring my mouse there or else it ruins the whole thing. But essentially what you can do is type in the value you want to have it in just by simply pressing enter on a number. And then if you press the tab key, which is above your caps lock key, if you're not familiar with it before, you press the tab key, then you can press in any value you want and it works for that too. And it sets the ratio of the sides, or just sets the length of the sides of your rectangle, which is really cool. And then to finish it, you can either click it or press enter. And there you go. Now, notice how these things are solid shapes right here. That's really important to note because let's just say you wanted to add a construction line. A construction line is a type of line that does not make it does not make 3D shapes. What it does is it guides the person building or working on the tool to not 3D print, to not make that a real line, essentially, not make it like a solid edge. Because construction lines, as I just randomly dragged this out, are actually dashed. And if I were to fully make a construction line, this technically is a closed shape, but it's not shaded in because it cannot be extruded or turned into a solid type thing or turned into a 3D type thing because it's not a solid line. So construction lines are useful. You'll see me use them later on in the video. I just really want to show that to get out of construction line and to get into construction line, all you got to do is find line type and then click this thing where it says construction. Now, I'm going to press Control or Command Z a couple of times. And I'm out of it. Okay. So, now let's move on to the next shape that you will use a lot. This would be center, diameter, circle. If you find circle and the other way, you have all of these options. I never use them. I use this option the most. And so many people use it the most that Fusion even offers a key for it. So let's just click it. And same thing with how you typed in the values of your sides for your square. You can do that for your diameter, which measures the whole length across the center of the circle. And I can press 1.2 like that, or I can press 1.1, and it changes the size for you. I recommend typing in your values because especially when dimensioning and other tools, it's just a really good habit to have, but you can drag it out as well. I am a firm believer in typing in the values. You press enter, and then you have your solid shape again. Because once you have a closed shape, you can essentially extrude and make 3D versions of that as well. I'm actually going to make another shape that is a circle, and I'm going to make this. You actually saw me drag it out, but I'm going to fix that and do 1.1, and that will be for a different video, but it was just more so for me. So if I zoom out, you see my shapes so far. Pretty simple, pretty easy peasy, right? Now, I'm already most of the way through, right? Arc is pretty cool as well. For arc, I only use 3-point arc because it's, once again, the easiest for me to use. Center point arc, I hate using, and I always struggle with it because I don't like it. And ellipse, I like, but I'm not a big fan of because, once again, it's confusing and it's not the easiest. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on arc. Arc, you just click 3-point arc, and I always follow along a line because I like that. But I'm clicking the line and I can type in the value of that line that I want it to be. If I want to make it 3 inches, I can. And then I get to click and find the center point that I want. So I want to make that here. I have a cute little arc. Now notice how it's not a closed shape. How can I tell? Because it's not solid colored like the rest of these shapes are. To make it solid color, I would have to add a solid line. But I'm going to save that feature for a separate moment in a little bit. So now let's go to polygon. Circumscribed and inscribed. Circumscribed is where it's the midpoint of one edge. So essentially like one side of whatever polygon you want. A polygon is something with multiple sides. And inscribed is where it uses basically the corner of it. So yeah, I always use circumscribed. Some people use inscribed. It depends on your preference, but it works. The tool works the same way regardless. So let's do circumscribed. Let's click a center point, and then you honestly, same thing as you've done with rectangle and everything, you type in the value of the size you want it to be, and this is measuring the radius. So I actually, for the sake of this, want to make it a little bit larger so you can see it. Let's do 2. And right there, this is measuring the radius. I have this feature called dimensions turned on so you can see it as well. Okay. Now, that is polygon, right? But you notice that this is only making a hexagon. You can actually change the amount of sides that your polygon has. So what you do is you go to create, you click polygon, circumscribed, inscribed, it does not matter. And you can click the value, you can type in the value 2, and then you can see how it says the edge number. That's how you determine how many edges or how many sides it has. So 5 makes it a pentagon, 8 makes it a hexagon. You can make it a square because all the sides of the square are equal. Technically, it's a quadrilateral if we're being geometry, mathy, big word terms. Or you can make a triangle. It really depends on what you want. If I make a pentagon, it looks like that. I'm going to make a pentagon, or just 5 sides, and I'm going to press enter, as you saw. Pressing enter also finishes the tool function. It does not work with ellipse. Speaking of ellipse, let's get into it. Yes, I'm recording this at 9 at night because the first time I recorded this, I didn't like it, so I'm redoing it. Because I am a perfectionist. So an ellipse is basically a very long circle. Now with ellipses, I always find a point I like. And I do 2 inches. And that's saying that the length of the ellipse is 2 inches long. I click it. And now it's telling me the width of the circle. So if I make this 0.5, it's making not a circle, the width of the ellipse. It's going to be a very narrow ellipse. If I make this 9, it's going to be a very wide ellipse and very small ellipse. Ellipse is basically a oval, essentially. But I'm feeling 3 inches. 3 inches? Nope, I'm not feeling 3 inches. I'm feeling 0.2 inches. Oh no, that's skinny or thin. Let's do 1 point. No, let's do 0.8. Okay, that's like a vibe. And that's basically saying the width of the ellipse or oval at a narrow point is about 0.8 from the point that it picked it at, and the height is 2 inches. That's what the dimensioning is reading, and you can see that right there. So, great. And those are a lot of the same tools and features that you'll use. Points, honestly, with a point, you can just mark a point. And that works for the whole feature. The whole feature, I have a separate video. Whole feature, I have a whole separate video on. Whole feature, I have a whole video on. So watch that if you're curious about it. You only really use it for holes and stuff like that. So, yeah. And then text. Let's do text. Text, it gives you everything that you want to do. And simply you just have to drag and make a text box. Type in whatever you want to write. I am iconic because I am. You can change the font size to however large you want. Height is the font size, 0.5, 0.1. 0.1 is 10 inches, makes it huge. I would not do that. 4 inches makes it huge. I would keep it point something. 0.5 is a good size. And then you can change the font, and you can change the font to anything you want. You just really have to, not that. Not but you just have to mess around with what you want. So yeah, click OK. Oh, you can also like change everything else over here too. Click OK, and there you go. I'm going to click cancel because I do not want that. And that's that tool. Now I'm going pretty fast and I apologize for this, but ultimately I'm going at a pace where you are not trying to get bored and I'm trying to keep you as engaged as possible. If you need to slow down, feel free to pause this video however you see fit so you can follow along. The final thing in this area is mirror. Now there's actually going to be two final things now that I say that. So in create, let's use the mirror tool. But before we use the mirror tool, we have to create a line. And this is where we can use the construction line. So I go to line type, construction. I click my point. And I'm not using a dimensioning for this one because I don't remember how long I made it. So that's why I didn't use it. Now I have that. And now we're going to click mirror. I'm going to get out of construction line just in case. And the mirror tool basically mirrors whatever you want across the axes that you want it. Or mirror line that you want it. So I click that line. And now I've made a little oval eyeball looking thing or a football looking thing. And then you have all of these things. These are called sketch constraints. I have a whole separate video on sketch constraints already. Feel free to watch it if you want. But notice that now this is a solid shape or a solid color. That's because this is a filled and closed shape. So what that means is that you can make this into a three-dimensional shape or a 3D shape. So pretty cool. And then sketch dimensions. So this can either tell you the length of the size you want, or you can actually change the size of it. So you want to make this is 3 inches. You want to make this 6 inches. Don't make it 60. You can press enter and it'll double it. And it'll double that as well. I'm pressing Control Z or Command Z technically on my Mac. And then you can double click it to change it. So let's go back to 3 inches. 3, press enter. Let's go back to that because I like that a little bit better. And there is the basic create stuff in Sketch. Let's go to modify. Now you're going to notice there's a lot of modifying things that you can do. I use offset, I use trim, I use move copy, and I use fillet the most. This is fillet, not fillet. I wish it was pronounced fillet. So let's do fillet because fillet is, I think, the most fun personally. Simply, fillet just rounds the edges of sharp edges. So like this goes to that. And the radius is how wide the curve is. So you want to do 0.3. You want to do 0.7. You want to do 0.6. You want to do 0.1. All of those have different sizes. 0.1 is obviously the closest to the edge, so it's going to make it barely any rounder. 0.8 is really round, and you see that right here, it's going to show you a very round edge. It just depends on what you want and what your vision is for the thing. So let's just do 0.2. You see the round edge, and these things are called sketch constraints. I go in this in a video, but it's coming up now, so I just wanted to highlight. It's normal if your sketch has this. I always type it in, and the way that I type it in is the same way each time. The text gets highlighted, you type it in. Okay, great. Now, that's one modifying tool. Let's just say I hate one of these things, right? Let's just say I hate this line. I can literally trim it, and it goes red. I trim it, the line's gone. Now, the shape isn't a solid shape, but I can fix it. And I can fix it by making another line. That is what modify does. So, yeah. It's really simple. I'm going to Control Z and Control Z so we have our original shape. So I can show offset as well. Offset, essentially, what it reads and what it does is that it copies the specified sketch and it makes it go to a set distance. So if you offset a rectangle, it goes for it to be positive. If I go 1. It can't, wait, if I go 2. Oh, it can't. Okay. Anyways, but if I go -2, it goes out. Oh, okay. So as I was going to say, I'm sorry. I just want to double check something. With rectangles, negative numbers go outwards. But positive numbers go inwards. And you can drag it or type in the value. It just depends on what you want and what you're more comfortable with. With other shapes, it's a different story. So that's what I mean by you have to mess around and find out in Fusion. Right? So let's look at this. Positive number, it goes outwards. Negative number, it goes inwards. And notice it's not keeping everything the same. That's because you're basically sending it off and you're just changing a little bit about it. It works really well with curves, to be totally honest, as you can see right there. So let's go to a circle. That's why I kept 2 circles. With circles, positive is out, negative is inside. It really just depends on the shape, which sucks because it's confusing. And I know it's confusing, but this is what I mean by you have to mess around with Fusion. You have to explore it to understand it. And yeah, so I'm just going to offset this a little bit to make it look like that. I'm going to click OK. And then I have those constraints there, which are normal. I'm highlighting how normal they are. But yeah, if you are curious about it, look, same idea. Negative goes inward, positive goes outward, and there will be a max of how big or small, technically, or how much you can offset it, essentially. Same thing with everything, because you can offset technically any shape. So let's do this. And that's positive outwards, negative inwards. So yeah, I'm just showing y'all because I think it's a really important tool to use, and it's really important for you to get comfortable with it. So that is offset. I never use blend curve. We've talked about trim, and the last one that we haven't talked about, and I've never used chamfer on this. I only really use it in when we are modifying it in like the solid 3D version of it, and for that reason I will have a whole separate video on it, because that's the purpose of the series, is to have separate videos on each of the topics. So move copy. This is a really useful tool. Essentially, you can click or highlight all the lines that you want to move and copy, and I pressed the ESC key because I wanted to make sure I got it right. So you can either highlight it before or highlight after. And yeah. And then you can just move it around with this. You can move it along the axes by using like that and that. Or you can just move it freely by clicking that. And you can copy it by pressing Control-C and Control-V for PC users, Command-V and Command-C. Command-C to copy, Command-V for Mac users. So yeah. And then you click OK when you're done, like you do any sketch or any tool in Fusion. Click OK. Then when you're done with your sketch, you click Finish Sketch, and voila, you have your sketches made. You can click Home to get that top, front, and right view, which are really important in Fusion. And that's how you make sketches in Fusion. I'm Sem with Miss Dubois, and that was how to use the sketch tool in Fusion. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day and a great life. Bye!